Oh gosh, so much. I will say I am ecstatic that we are having our moon moment, right? Because of what it represents for us and what it represents for future generations. As you mentioned in your opening, we have not been back to the moon as a society since 1972, and a lot has changed since then. So this moment in space is different because it is different than how our parents and grandparents engaged in space. Because as you mentioned, this is not just about national pride anymore, but rather engaging with the moon is a really critical anchor for geopolitical alliances and also this critical infrastructure. So it really changes who engages the moon, how they engage the moon, and this concept of moving beyond flags and footprints to something that is a lot more sustainable and pushing toward economic return means so many things in different verticals.
What do people misunderstand about space?
Oh, so much. I will start by saying that I think that space is very well known, but not known well. And what I mean by that is that every single human on the planet, when you say space, they think of a very particular thing, right? Most minds go toward astronauts and satellites, but there is so much more that space enables that we as people on Earth touch every day. Or there's other ways to engage space that are new and diverse. And so I think the biggest misconception is that people either think it's not for them, right? We see a lot of people that think that there's not a job for them in the space industry, that the space industry doesn't matter to them. And it's good that missions like Artemis exist because at least it puts space back in the national imagination. But now we need to do a really good job of explaining how it actually benefits them, whether they're in the industry or they're just Americans on Earth.
All right, so this is a loaded question. What is the craziest story that you have heard about, what we're thinking about doing with the moon?
Ooh.
I know, I told you it was loaded because there's a lot of crazy conversations that happen around the moon, but there's a lot of possibilities about what we can do there. So what are some of those conversations? What are the parameters of them?
So what's interesting around the parameters is that they're not really well defined. So if you think about, you mentioned in your opening too, about just the regulatory framework, right? So the only treaty, one of the main preliminary treaties that engage moon involvement essentially was developed and signed in 1967 and ratified in 1972. So it was signed before we even went to the moon, right? And it was ratified the last time we went to the moon.
Because we already had visions that we were going to do something with the moon back then.
But only in terms of like exploration and engagement. There is nothing that actually extends to property rights, to sovereignty, to what we're going to do when you now have commercial companies and countries engaging in a surface for economic return, as well as geopolitics, as well as, exploration and refinement. And so that domain is ripe for how we're going to govern, how we're going to create these sustainable ecosystems. And so to your point about these crazy stories, it's not necessarily like the Wild West, but there's a lot that we have to learn from in terms of how we're going to engage and what that first mover advantage looks like, particularly around one of the main areas, as you mentioned, like lunar resource mining, right? So there are a lot of really critical minerals that are on the moon. One of the big ones is helium-3, which is used as a really clean energy alternative to nuclear. But there is no structure on how to go through like mining, right? So whose standards are the right standards? Is it the U.S. Artemis-led base? Is it the Chinese-led base? How much do you actually get? What does that mean for ownership? And then the cascade just goes on and on.
And this leads to what seem like very crazy conversations that some people have about like, oh, the Chinese are going to build a nuclear plant on the moon. No, they actually could down the road. But we just don't have any parameters set for how are we going to approach that. I mean, what do we do? Declare war on China for going to the moon? Like, how? How is this going to play out?
It's a great question. I will say that that's probably the million-dollar question because we're at a place now where we don't want to stifle our capabilities and innovation because we need to be able to see what is possible and probable. But we do need to put guardrails around it because it's inevitable.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live, OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.